What's up everybody, it's Andy here and welcome to another FPL in my opinion video. And in this one I'm going to take a look at wildcards. Yes, it's that subject already. We've had 3 weeks of the season gone, we're going into game week 4 and people are looking to spend their wildcard. Obviously we get one in the first half of the season, one in the second. So a common tactic that people use is to use the first one early. So I'm going to take a look at reasons why you may or may not want to use your wildcard right now. Going to take a look at some players that I think are almost must-haves if you're going to wildcard. Going to take a look at my team, whether I'm wildcarding, and also some mock-up teams. So if I was wildcarding, what would I look at? So let's just jump straight into it and start talking wildcards. So we're going to start off talking about whether you should or shouldn't wildcard. And I'm going to do that really annoying thing where I'm going to sit on the fence and basically say, it depends on your team. Don't wildcard just because someone else is. And don't hold it back just because there's other people that aren't. Everyone's team is different. Everyone has different goals, different ways they want to play the game. So consider the things that I'm going to talk about, but don't make a decision just based on what someone else is doing. So the first thing I'm going to look at is price rise myths. Now, it's obviously not a myth that prices change. Some fall, some rise. But in past year, it's been used as a tactic to use it in the international breaks or going into game week 4. Because there's a lot of price rises, but price rises have slowed down over the years, and this year in particular there's less than normal. So if you're just using it for price rises, I don't think that's a good idea. Now, if a lot of your players are dropping, and they're players you want to get rid of, so people like, probably got rid of people like Zaha now, but like De Bruyne, players like that, if you've gone for a Crystal Palace defender, you probably want rid of them, they might be dropping as well. So if they're dropping and the players you want to get are rising, then yes, you could wildcard, but we're going to come on to the next part now, which is how many players will you swap. So if you've just got one or two that are rising and falling and you want to swap them, then just take a hit. I think one hit, maybe even 2 hits at this stage of the season is fine. And if it saves your wildcard, then your quid's in, I think. So again, have a look at your team. How many players are you going to swap in and out and go from there? And also, I would take into account how many big hitters you're changing. So if you want to change like 5 or 6 players, but they're all kind of players you won't play that often, then you probably don't need to be gotten rid of as quick. If it's 5 or 6 big hitters that you want to get rid of, the ones that are really going to score you the points, then I would maybe look at more of making that decision. So like I put at the bottom, a few hits could help. Have a look at that and see if that could work for your team. And then also remember the next wildcard is a long way away. You can't use it until after Christmas. And if you're playing the game, I don't want to say properly, but what a lot of experienced managers will do will wait and use it for the double game weeks in the second half of the season, which can be really good kind of source of points potential. Now you can use it earlier than that, but you kind of want to wait for as much info as possible. So I would try and hold this wildcard as long as possible, but don't do it to the detriment of your team. I'll come on to my team later and explain why I don't want to use it. But like I said already, just keep an eye on your team and make a decision based on that. And now if you are going to wildcard, we'll take a look at some players that you should consider. Now this is a list of good players that I think are worth considering if you are going to wildcard. I'm not saying you need all of them, but you should definitely consider them. I haven't listed absolutely everyone. There's players like Ben Foster and Elliott and Newcastle, good goalkeeper rotation if you want to go for cheap goalkeepers. There's also, if you're going to go for a cheap 5th midfielder, there's someone like Tom Carroll. Maybe Loftus-Cheek if he's back from injury, but definitely Carroll who looked good for $4.5 million. But I think they're kind of probably quite obvious and popular ones. So I've just listed kind of more of big hitters. So, I think one of Mane and Salah is a definite. Liverpool look like they're going to score goals, and they're going to come from those wings. Yes, Firmino is on the list as well. He's going to do well. But I think the main source of points is going to come from Mane and Salah. So, if it was me wildcarding, I'd want one of those two plus Firmino up front, because I think in that striker bracket, there's no one really that good, like for less than $8.5 million. So, Firmino looks like the one. So, I'd want Firmino plus one of Mane and Salah. Now, you could triple up, but I think there's other options to consider. So 2 of those 3 players, including one of them as Firmino. And then one of Mkhitaryan and Pogba. The Man United midfield looks a really good source of points. Excellent value. I think they're about 8.1, 8.2 million at the moment. I've got Mkhitaryan currently. If I could swap, I probably would take Pogba, but it's so close. I don't think you can make a wrong decision on this. If one of them ends up outscoring the other one massively, then I feel like you've just got unlucky with your pick. So I would probably go Pogba, but Mkhitaryan's a great pick. If you've got him, don't panic about having to get rid of him. And then again, one of Eriksen and Ali. Now, Eriksen's been the popular pick at the start. Ali's owned by more players, but in terms of transfers in, Eriksen's been a bit better recently because he obviously did quite well in the first 2 game weeks. But Ali has just scored. So they've both got attacking returns in the first 2 games. I think that's going to continue. Like Mkhitaryan and Pogba, they're probably going to score quite similarly to each other. And given the fixtures for Spurs, I definitely want one of their midfielders. Now, I would have put someone like Trippier or Ben Davies on the list, but they're quite expensive. We don't know what the situation currently is with Rose and maybe a new signing for Spurs, so, but I would consider them after the transfer window's gone because they look like a good source of points as well, especially Ben Davies because he's on corners. And then Phil Jones, he's 5.1 million, looks a really good option into the Man United defence. That defence is going to keep clean sheets. They did loads, conceded quite, not many goals last year. And now they've got Matic in front of them. I think they're going to do even better. The Bailly and Jones partnership looks really good. And Jones at 5.1 million is a steal. Now, he is quite injury prone. There is a rumour of an injury over the international break. I assume it's probably just one of those international injuries, which will be fine when the game week starts going again. But keep an eye on that. But Phil Jones, 5.1 million, absolute bargain. And then Bertrand, I still think he's a really good option. When I look at the kind of players around that price or lower, 5.5 million, nailed on at Southampton. They got 2 clean sheets in 3. He has got attacking potential, although granted Southampton attack isn't great. But I think for 5.5 million, he would still be in my team. So take a look at him. And now we're going to take a look at my team and whether I am going to wildcard or not. So this is my current side. And for those of you that are following the reviews and previews, it should be pretty... not new to you, but I'm going to quickly run through it anyway. I don't want to spend too long on this because really what you want to see is the kind of mock wildcards that I've got up. So I'm basically, to put you all out in misery, not wildcarding. When I look at the kind of sides that I'd want to have going forward, they're very similar to this. There's not too many changes I want to make. So Kane and Lukaku are obviously using up quite a lot of budget. And Kane hasn't started scoring yet. Lukaku looks good, but who knows if the goals are going to keep going. So long term, yes, I feel like one of them could probably go, but right now I'm not comfortable making that decision. Gabbiadini I want rid of eventually, and I would like Firmino in. I can't do that right now, but that's only one kind of swap that I definitely want to do. I'm really happy with the midfield. Atsu, yes, he's not lighting the world on fire, but he's doing alright for 5 million, and that's enabling me the midfield that I've got. In defence, yes, Daniels eventually is probably not a great option if Bournemouth are going to keep conceding goals, but like we saw against Man City, he can score goals and get attacking returns. And he's got Brighton at home coming up. So I feel like if I wildcard, I don't think I can keep Daniels in my team, but I actually want him for the next couple of fixtures. So if I don't wildcard, I get to keep him and I can wildcard him out later. So again, there's not many changes I want to make. Yes, it'd be nice to have, instead of Long, a playing defender, but it's not been the end of the world so far. I've not had to rely on my sub-bench too much. So yeah, I'm not wildcarding. I'm going to keep it at that. I don't feel like there's enough changes I want to make. Like I said at the start of the video, you need to make... I'd say at least 5 or 6 big changes, players that you want to get rid of and players you want to bring in before you start worrying about it. So for me, if you've got a card similar to this, I'd probably look at not wildcarding right now. So if you've got, a side like this, don't wildcard. Obviously, take your side into consideration and go from there. But we will now come on to some mock sides that I've drawn up if you do want a wildcard. So this is the first side that I've drawn up. I've actually done 2. So this is a mock wildcard. This is probably more similar to what I would go with if I was wildcard. Now, the standout straight away is there's no Lukaku. So I've gone for Jesus, Man City. Looks like he's mostly nailed on. But yes, I am a little bit worried about Man City rotation. But he's $1 million cheaper than Lukaku is. Maybe even a little bit more than that now. Lukaku's gone up in price. And I think Jesus has dropped. So the strike force is Kane. I'm really worried about not owning him. I think the goals are coming, especially in Game Week 5 against Swansea. I think he's captain material there. Like I said, Firmino is great value. So that strike force is pretty decent, and it allows you to eventually, if you want to, downgrade Jesus to someone cheaper and then upgrade the midfield. So the midfield, again, this is why I've not wildcarded, because I think this is basically a midfield that I would like. So Atsu's in there again. He's not lit the world on fire, but for 5 million, he's doing okay, and he allows you to have the rest of that team. So I'd have Salah, Pogba, like I said, instead of Mkhitaryan. And then Eriksen as well. Spurs have got really great fixtures, so I think Eriksen could do well. He could become Ali, to be honest, if you wanted Ali instead. It's much of a muchness there, but a Spurs midfielder. Salah for sure. I think Mane's a really good option, but Salah for less money is matching him right now. He scored 11 points in 2 of 3 fixtures, and obviously he missed the other one through rotation, so we'll have to keep an eye on rotation with him. But I think he's a really good pick. He looks like he's going to pick up points nearly every week. Then in defence, like I said, Phil Jones and Bertrand, they were on my list of good players to consider. I'd definitely have them in a wildcard team. Foster and Elliott in goal, I think, is a really good combo. It's a good combo for the coming weeks. Yes, it might not last you the season, but I think it's going to do well for kind of up until you use your next wildcard. And maybe you make a goalkeeper transfer way down the line, but you don't need to right now. Fernandes, now I would have Kyle Norton there for Swansea, but there's rumours that they're trying to sign a new right back, so he may not be in the team long term. Again, wait till the transfer window's finished, and then make your choice. If not, Fernandez looks good for bonus points. If he gets clean sheets, then he's obviously going to pick up points. Maybe not too much attacking potential, but as long as he's nailed on, he's better than Norton. Now, obviously, if Norton's nailed on because they haven't signed someone, then I would definitely swap there. But that's basically a 4.5 million Swansea slot. And then in defence, I've got Mbemba. Now, he's a 4 million playing defender right now. That's not going to continue. So, if you want a full playing 15, which might work out better on Wildcard, I would look to save some money and upgrade Mbemba. But right now, he is playing. So, for 4 million, it looks like okay value. And obviously, Tom Carroll, like I said, he is your 5th midfielder of choice for 4.5 million, I think. Loftus-Cheek, potentially an option, but he is injured at the moment. So I've got Carroll. I'm going to stick with him. And then Low at Huddersfield looks really good. Huddersfield have kept 3 clean sheets in 3. Now, that's probably not going to continue, but they've at least shown that they can get clean sheets. Low is also potentially on penalties. So he could be a good pick for 4.5 million. I think that's the kind of wildcard side I'd be looking at for kind of a mock one if I was doing one right now. Yes, it's very similar to my team. Firmino's someone I want. You could look at downgrading someone to upgrade Jesus to Lukaku if you're not sure. You could also go Lukaku instead of Kane and go without Kane again. That's really up to you. I personally want Kane, but a few people are getting itchy feet with him. 3 games, 3 blanks. So, like I said, that's the kind of team I'd be looking at. And now I'm going to come on to what I would call a riskier wild card, but could pay dividends if it comes off. Now, this is the riskier wild card. Now, the first thing that's going to stand out to you is there's a lot of players the same. And again, that's because I've got the players that I like and the players that I would want going forward. So I'm not going to risk not having them in my team. Even though this is a riskier wild card, we'll come on to why I think it is that in a sec. So, a few players that are the same as the last one. So, you've got Foster and Elliott are the same. Jones and Bertrand are both in there. I think they offer really good value. Firmino's in there again. But the strike force is where it really changes. So, Kane's gone, which I would consider a really big risk if he goes big in the next few games, which is entirely possible. But Lukaku's brought back in. Now, you may say that that's actually less risky because he's higher owned, and that's fair enough. But I think there's a good chance that over the next 5 weeks, Kane outscores Lukaku. So, if you want Lukaku instead of Kane, maybe go for this kind of wild card, but kind of the options there for you. Tammy Abraham, now he's just scored. He's only 5.5 million. There's a chance if Llorente stays that he goes out of the team. So, there are rumours that Llorente might move before the transfer deadline's over, but we'll have to wait and see for that. So, consider Abraham, but you may want to get rid of him if Llorente starts being fit and available for selection, and also obviously doesn't leave Swansea. But Abraham's just scored, looks okay in the games that I've watched him in. He's not going to get you hauls every week, but they've got really nice fixtures, so I'd definitely consider him. Then midfield's very similar. Atsu, Pogba and Salah are there again, but where the risk comes in is Sanchez. Now, he's 11.9 million. Probably not worth it right now looking at Arsenal, but they've got really nice fixtures. If he stays at Arsenal, he could start doing the business. Now, I realise that's a big if. That's why this wild card's risky. If he goes crazy in the next couple of weeks in the good fixtures, then people are going to scramble to bring him in. Now, if you've already blown your wild card at that point, it's going to be very tough to get him in, depending on how you've set up your midfield. I would consider Sanchez. Not sure if I would go with him myself. Like I said, the mock wild card is probably more what I would do, but worth consideration. And then Alonso, again, you might say this isn't a risk, but I think putting all that money in defence is a potential problem later down the line if you want to redistribute those funds. So for me, this is the riskier wild card, but one that could really pay off. But what I would say is look at the two teams, kind of, there's a lot of the similar players in both teams, so they're the ones I would definitely have, and then build around it from there, the players that you'd prefer. Again, I've got Fernandez in there, I've got Lowe. The good thing about this team, actually, where it's not a risk, is all the defenders are playing, so there's no Mbemba in there, which I quite like. So, riskier is probably not quite the right word for this team, thinking about it, but there's some risky players in there like Sanchez. So take a look at the two teams, have a look at which ones are similar, which ones you think you want in your team, and then build the rest around from there. And I think you'll be onto a good thing, at least in my opinion, which is the whole point of this video. So that's it for wildcards in this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. I didn't want to just make a video and say, hey, here's the team that I would make, and that's it. I wanted to at least run through some points that you might want to consider in terms of some players that are good, so like kind of core players, as well as reasons why you may or may not. So obviously take a look at your team and your team only and make a decision from there. And obviously I showed you a couple of mock wildcards now. Like I already said a load of times, a lot of the players are the same. So if you are struggling, take a look at that and go from there. But I'm going to leave it there for now. Give me a comment below. Let me know what you think of the teams that I've made. Are you wildcarding? I'd be interested to know that. And I'd also like to see the teams that you're making. I want to see kind of what the common players are in everyone's teams. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. That'll let you know when the next video is going live, and also when I'm live streaming. So if you don't know, if you haven't watched my videos before, usually twice a week in normal weeks where there's no international break, I stream once after the game week's just finished and once before it starts, answering your questions. There's no pre-submitted questions, anything like that. So make sure you join in for that. So subscribe, like, comment, share, retweet, all that good stuff. And I will catch you next time in another Fantasy Premier League video. Cheers all.